All right, folks, so I'm here today to help you write your bill. We're just going to talk about the title of the bill first in this particular video, and there'll be separate videos on how to write different aspects of the bill. So first off, you'll note that I have the bill writing manual up on the right side of the screen, and I have the how to write a bill template up here on the left. Okay, now I did eliminate some information of the template just so you can see how it will be crafted. So let's just first walk through the manual here. There are 3 parts to a bill. There's the title, there is if I scroll down, there's the enacting clause. The purpose of the enacting clause is to separate the title from the body. And if I'm changing current Minnesota law, if I'm amending Minnesota law, there's this body part right here. If I'm going to propose coding for new law, I would do that here. This is the language that would show me how to do so in the bill writing manual. Okay? All right, well, let's begin. Let's go right up to the top. There's some information that you just need to include because this is a graded assignment. So you'll note that over here on the template, I have put my name. That's my student name so that I know that I will get a grade for the work that I do. Then over here at the top, I've included my assumed legislative identity. So if you're in one of my classes, Mr. Doctor's classes, you're going to be a state senator. And I'm going to pretend to be Senator Bobby Joe Champion. Okay? This information's already here for you, but you don't need to do anything with it. So your House file number, your Senate file number, your bill will not be assigned a file number until it's actually introduced in its respective chamber. Then someone's going to write, the clerk will put a number in here. Same with committee. You can just leave that blank. Your bill won't be assigned a standing committee until it's actually been introduced. At that time, someone will write which standing committee your bill has been referred to right here. So let's get busy. So if we look at the title of the bill, the manual explains to us that the title explains the content of the bill. It's like the opening paragraph in an essay. It informs the reader what the bill is about. Okay, your title should be as brief as possible. In fact, it's only going to be a single sentence. Now, in general, you follow some of the same grammar rules when you are crafting the sentence. The sentence itself is constructed from several phrases. The first phrase is called the opening phrase. The second phrase is the general subject phrase, which is followed by number 3 here, which is what I like to call the specific subject phrase. Okay? Now, when you get to 4, there might be some additional phrases that are needed because of legislative custom. You don't really have to worry about that. Okay, so if you don't want to do number 4, you might not have to worry about number 4. Or you can ask your teacher. You're like, okay, is this good? And they might see that, hey, you made something illegal. You might want to insert the phrase providing penalties. Okay? So depending on what your bill is doing, there might be some additional phrases because of legislative custom. It's not a big deal. If you're worried about it, just ask your teacher. Now, the final phrase of your bill is if you're changing Minnesota law, and this is what this video is about. It's the title for amending current law. We're going to use number 5 here. In the next video that I do, where we're writing law that's proposing new coding, you would use number 6 because the language is just a little bit different. For our purposes, you would never use 5 and 6 unless you're trying to get super fancy. I would not recommend that in this technical piece of writing. So let's start writing. We start with the opening phrase. It says the opening 5 words are always a bill for an act. And this line is centered on the page. Well, it's centered in the cell here on this table. You'll note that I have a table with 2 columns. One column is just dedicated to the numbers because every line of your bill needs to be numbered. Okay, that way we can have a debate about it. We could talk about the language on line 1.5 and everybody would know what you're talking about. Okay, so I'm centered in the cell and I'm just going to write the opening phrase, a bill for an act. And I'm done. That's it. Okay, I move on to the general subject phrase, which has to start on the second line. So I'm going down here to the second line. You'll note that I've already double indented. So the rest of the phrases of the title are double indented. Now, how do you indent in a table? You can't use tab. That's just going to take you down to the next cell. Okay, so what you do is you actually space it out. Every tab is 10 spaces. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? And it says the general subject phrase almost always begins with relating to. Well, all of ours will begin with relating to. You'll note what happened there, it auto-corrected. But I'm going to follow the same grammar rules I would normally for writing a sentence. Okay? Only the first word of a sentence is capitalized unless it's a proper noun. So I have to go back and make that change. Relating to. Now, my bill is going to eliminate government as a graduation requirement for high school. So very generally, my bill is about education. Okay? The other thing I'm doing with the general subject phrase is I'm indicating which committee I think would be appropriate for my bill. My bill should be referred to an education standing committee because it's about graduation requirements, right? Now, every phrase of your title is going to be separated with semicolon. That's the punctuation that separates the phrases. I don't put one up here after the opening phrase, though. That's the only one that doesn't have punctuation after it. So now I'm going down to the specific subject of my bill. What's my bill actually doing? The other thing I might want to remember is that every phrase starts with the participle, a verb, in its ing form. So I'm going to eliminate, right? But I have to change that to eliminating government as a graduation requirement for yep. Oh, you'll see what happened there. Okay. I had too much language in that cell, and it went down to the next line. It made the cell bigger, but that's not numbered. That line where I wrote school is not numbered. I can't do that, so I'm just going to backspace. Okay, and I'm actually going to go down to the next cell over here and double space again. Do 20 spaces here. Okay, get all the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now I'm going to type school. Period. Oh, it's bolded for some reason. So I'm going to go back, unbold that, boom, type in school, and then a semicolon. Okay, so let's see what I got here. Bill for an act relating to education. That's my general subject phrase. Eliminating government as a graduation requirement for high school. That's the specific subject of my phrase. That's what my bill's doing. I go down to number 4, specific language required per legislative custom. There's nothing I'm doing in my bill that requires additional language. So I'm going to skip 4 and go right down to 5. A list of existing sections amended. So when I'm changing current Minnesota law, it must be recited in the title. And the format for doing so is right here, amending Minnesota statutes, the current year or the last year in which Minnesota law was published, and then the actual section number. Okay, the number of the law I'm seeking to change. If I'm only changing a subdivision, like one single subdivision, I'm going to list that as well. Okay, so you'll see how this was only changing subdivision 4 here in the example. And so it was listed there. Okay, so I am going to write exactly what it says. Oh, you'll note that it auto-corrected again, so I want to go back and make sure that is lowercase, because school itself is not a proper noun. And I'm going to write amending Minnesota statutes, which is just a fancy word for laws, but it has to be statutes. Now, the last time we published all of Minnesota laws was 2020. That was the last legislative session we had. So put there, and then you'll note I have a comma, so pay attention to the punctuation. Now I need to know the section of Minnesota law that I want to change. So I'm going to go to the Minnesota legislative website. Here it is. I'm going to scroll down. You've already watched that video on how to search Minnesota law. So that's right in this area. There's 3 different ways, keyword, topic, and the whole book, right? So I go to the table of contents of the book. That's what I like to talk about this as. And I like to search there because I know how to navigate it pretty well. So I'm going to go down because I know all the education laws in Minnesota are roughly in the same area. They're all in the 120s, okay? And then I'm going to look for a specific chapter that makes sense. This will take a little while to load. There you go. I'm going to scroll down, and 120B is about curriculum and assessment. If I was changing the school calendar, I might look at 120A. But I'm going to go into Chapter 120B, and I'm going to look specifically. Now, I've already done this search a few times, so I know that it's not up here. It's right here in credits. Okay, and if I scroll around down to double check, I see subdivision 1, it's about graduation requirements. Clause 5 deals specifically with social studies, and there it is, government citizenship. I want to eliminate that. So here's the section number I need. So I'm going to type that here as 120B.024, comma, and let's see, is there an additional subdivision here? There is. There's subdivision 2. So I'm just going to change subdivision 1. That's the only one I need. So I'm going to write, and whether I capitalize this or not is not important. Per legislative custom, we don't capitalize it. It gets capitalized in the enrollment process, subdivision 1, period. And I'm done. There you go. I've written the title of my bill. I could double check it against the rubric. Let's see if we have a rubric in here. I do. This is an older rubric. We'll get you a newer rubric, but it's still good. So look at all of these points associated with the bill title. The bill title is written in the format, okay? Opening phrase is a bill for an act. Great. The first line is centered on the page. It is. The general subject phrase begins with relating to. It does. This general subject phrase begins on the second line. Yes, it does. 1.2. Okay. The general subject phrase is broad and gives an indication to which committee the bill shall be referred. Yep. Education. The specific subject phrase states the intention of the bill. Sure does. Eliminating government as a graduation requirement for high school. Okay. And then all phrases in the opening, after the opening phrase, use participles. So relating, eliminating, amending. Yep. And is it separated with semicolons? It sure is. Is the final phrase of the title written correctly? Yes, it is. Amending Minnesota Statutes 2020, section number, comma, subdivision, and the correct subdivision number. Boom. And is it underlined? No, it's not. Don't underline it. Okay? Second, subsequent lines are double indented. Boom. I'm going to get all the points for the title. There you go.